Please be seated. Please welcome our host for today's program. He is an author, an inspirational speaker, an anchor for Bloomberg TV Philippines, and an honorary consul of Monaco to the Philippines, and one of the most distinguished hosts in the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. RJ Ledesma.
Thank you very much for that very generous introduction. We would like to welcome all of our guests who have come from near and far to join us in this truly historic occasion here today at the Sequoia Hotel. It's nice to see so many good-looking people involved in saving the environment. But just to confirm that you're all good-looking, please do me a favor and take a good look at the person beside you on the table. Please take a good look at the person beside you. And please tell them, ang ganda mo. Ang guwapo mo. And let's give everybody a round of applause, please. Thank you so much for joining us today on this very important occasion. Now, in a way, this is an extension of the celebration of the World Wildlife Day that happened last March 3, 2017. If you want to know what transpired during that day, please make sure to check out our social media accounts now posted on the screen. Can we please show our hashtags on the screen? At the same time, we would like to invite all of our guests and friends from the media who are here today to please upload the photos of today's event, photos, videos, or blow-by-blow commentaries using the hashtag which you see on the screen right now, Connected to the Wild. Again, Connected to the Wild. We'll also be updating these accounts today about what happens, so don't forget to check them out. Now, as many of you gathered from our opening video earlier, we are here to talk about today the world we live in, our world, our home, and what we can do to protect it. Our world has changed so much and so rapidly, and here in the Philippines, we are really starting to see and feel the effects of those changes. Our wildlife and their habitats are deeply, deeply affected by our choices. As their homes are threatened, so are our homes as well. After all, we all share one Philippines and one Earth. Now, you must all be wondering what you can do to make a difference. And the simple answer is this: you can all do a whole lot. In fact, you can begin today by simply learning about the Protect Wildlife Project, sharing what you learn about this with others, and hopefully applying what you learn to protect our wildlife, and by doing so, to protect our way of life. With this, ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to our screens to watch more about Protect Wildlife.
What comes to mind when you hear wildlife? Deep forests, unusual animals, adventure. Stuff we see only on TV or the movies or the zoo, right? It may even feel like wildlife is something very far, far, far away from us. The truth is, we're closer to wildlife than you think. You may not always live near it, but you always feel its benefits. Fish in the ocean multiply and provide us with livelihood and food. Like other wild fauna, pangolins play an important function in forest ecology. Birds in forests eat fruits and help disperse seed that grow into trees and prevent flooding, clean the air, provide timber, shade, livelihood, and even more food. And don't forget all the other fun stuff that wildlife gives us. It's clear our way of life is connected to wildlife. But we're in danger of losing that connection. Destructive practices like overfishing, dynamite and cyanide fishing deplete our food supply. Irresponsible conversion of forest land and timber poaching endanger our water supply and leave us more vulnerable to landslide and flooding. And pangolins, the most illegally traded animal in the world, are being hunted to extinction. Not to mention all the other wildlife being taken from their habitats to fuel the illegal wildlife trade. With our life-saving and life-enhancing connection already at risk, USAID and DENR are working with partners to set things right through Protect Wildlife. Protect Wildlife will partner with communities, governments, universities, enforcers, the private sector, and other organizations to make sure our connection to the wild continues to thrive. That means you continue to enjoy all the benefits of nature and wildlife without hurting the very source of these benefits. Protect Wildlife has 5 strategies to make this happen. Use behavior change communication and social marketing to change people's hearts, minds, and actions. Intensify public and private partnerships that can fund conservation activities and create livelihood opportunities through biodiversity-friendly products. Improve the ability of local government and civil society to create policies and plans so they can drive the process of conserving wildlife and natural resources under their care, ensuring their community grows sustainably. Work with universities to undertake research and develop technologies that aid conservation. And train enforcers to better enact and follow through on wildlife law enforcement to decrease illegal and destructive activities. When we fish at the right time, at the right place, using the right gear, fish stocks will boom. When we use our lands responsibly, there will be a solid supply of clean water. When habitats are protected, important species flourish. And it all comes back to you. You'll enjoy the benefits and experience what it truly means to be connected to the wild. After all, conservation's end goal isn't about protecting nature from people. It's about protecting nature for people. Let's make sure we keep that connection going. Protect wildlife. Protecting wildlife is protecting our way of life.
Protect wildlife. Just like the video reminded us, we are all interconnected, and we are all connected to the wild. And just like we saw very clearly, and hopefully from here on out, we will also have a clearer picture of our role to keep this critical connection going. It starts with one person at a time, one day at a time. We can all start here. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and pleasure to call on our keynote speaker for this morning. He is a man of extensive diplomatic experience who previously served as the United States Special Representative for North Korea Policy and Deputy Assistant Secretary for Korea and Japan before being appointed as U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of Korea in 2011. In 2016, he was sworn in as the U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Ambassador of the United States of America to the Philippines, His Excellency, Sung Kim.
Thank you very much. That's a very kind introduction. Secretary Lopez, Senator Villar, I have to say, I feel very well protected because I'm sitting between two very accomplished, very strong women, probably the strongest protectors of the environment we have. So thank you for being here. Colleagues and friends from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really honored to be here with you this morning to launch the Protect Wildlife Project. I'm especially excited and privileged that we're launching this very important initiative so early in my tenure in the Philippines. I've only been in the Philippines about 3 months now. I'm also excited that we're doing this just a couple of days after countries around the globe celebrated the World Wildlife Day last Friday. The Philippines, as you know, is famous for its biodiversity and unique wildlife. I've already had the opportunity to experience some of its beauty and richness, and I look forward to exploring every corner of the Philippines during my time here. In the year 2014, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature released the Red List of Threatened Species, a comprehensive inventory of the global conservation status of biological species. I was dismayed to learn that the list included over 850 species in the Philippines that are considered to be near threatened, vulnerable, endangered, or critically endangered. For the majority of species, their inclusion on the list was primarily due to habitat loss, disturbances from changes in land use, and wildlife trafficking. Environmental resilience is obviously critical to a stable and prosperous Philippines. Natural resources and biodiversity play an indispensable part in the Philippines economy as a source of water, energy, and livelihoods for so many people. This is why the U.S. Agency for International Development has been working closely with Filipino partners to strengthen natural and environmental resource management in the Philippines. I'm especially excited about the Protect Wildlife Project. This 5-year, $24.5 million project, that's 1.2 billion pesos, will combat wildlife trafficking and protect wildlife habitats in highly biodiverse areas in this great country. Beginning in Palawan, Zamboanga City, and Tawi-Tawi, the project will engage across the public and private sectors to raise awareness, build capacity, and share best practices for combating wildlife trafficking. These efforts to protect and manage the Philippines' diverse habitats and species will lead to improved quality of life and community-level sustainable development. I should mention that the Protect Wildlife Project is just one example in a long and productive partnership between the United States government and the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. We are very proud that we have accomplished much together over the past several decades. Wildlife trafficking is an important issue for the United States government. In October last year, the U.S. Congress passed the Eliminate, Neutralize, and Destroy Wildlife Trafficking Act. The law bolsters global anti-poaching work and strengthens the capacity of partner countries to counter wildlife trafficking. And just last month, President Trump signed Executive Order 13773, which calls for strengthened federal law enforcement with respect to transnational crimes, including wildlife trafficking. Protect Wildlife, of course, also aligns tightly with Philippines' initiatives and goals. These include the Wildlife Resource Conservation and Protection Act, the Strategic Environment Plan for Palawan Act, and the Philippines Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan for 2015 to 2028. So ladies and gentlemen, Protect Wildlife is more than just the name of our project. It is also an imperative for all of us to take care of the species with which we share the planet. I very much look forward to the progress we can achieve together through this important project and other critical projects in the years and decades to come. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat rin po, Ambassador Sung Kim, and of course to our good friends from the USAID and working together with the Philippine government to help protect our wildlife, not just for the Philippines, but for the future of our global community. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it now from our country's very own champion for the environment. She is a philanthropist, a passionate environmentalist, and currently the Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Very happy to introduce a very good friend. Please welcome DENR Secretary, Gina Lopez.
Good morning, everyone. Ambassador Sung Kim and my good friend, Senator Cynthia Villar, and everyone else here. I want to thank you, and I would like to take this opportunity to applaud the U.S. government for coming together with us on this very, very important endeavor. I'm happy to see that, I was happy to see in the video in the end, it's protecting the environment for the people, because that's actually what DNR is all about. I'd like to take this opportunity to also let you know the perspective in which DNR is doing everything that it's doing. My belief, my conviction is that the country's way out of poverty is area development. Area development is taking each area and seeing the specialness, the uniqueness, the beauty, the specialness of what's there, and ensuring that that specialness benefits the people living there, and at the end of the day will benefit everyone else. And I do see that wildlife is an integral part of all of this. I'd like to let the ambassador know that, endemicity, no? Endemicity is when the flora and fauna are unique to the place. And I'm happy to let you know that in the Philippines, in the world, the country with the highest endemicity per unit area is the Philippines, which means that 70% of the flora and the fauna that are found in the Philippines are endemic. I come from a business family, and that sounds like a really good business deal, no? That 70% of what's found here is endemic to us, and I feel that preserving it and nurturing it is actually our contribution to humanity, and is actually, I feel, our way out of poverty. I'm happy to also let you know that, and I was pleased when I'm sitting beside, Monita, can you stand up? These are head of the Biodiversity Management Bureau, and then I have here Marlo Mendoza, a really good friend. He's my USAID for Policy and Planning. And I was pleased to know that in this whole sphere of the part of the plans and program, that it included our shells and our sponges, because, Ambassador, would you know that we have shells and sponges that can cure cancer? And then we have snails which emit a venom. You know how snails go really slow, and then they want to eat the fish, no? So they emit a venom to catch that fish. And a Nobel laureate has found that that venom is actually even better than morphine. It can address pain without the side effects. That's barely scratching the surface of what the Philippines has to offer. And so I feel that our way to go is to strengthen the biodiversity that's there, to strengthen the endemicity, and that includes flora and fauna. I'd also like you to know that 3 weeks ago, sir, have you heard of Dado Banata? He's like a Silicon Valley multi-billionaire. Yeah, he's an indigenous tribe person, and he's going to come back here this month. We're going to set up, Senator Villar, an Institute for Translational Medicine, which means looking at the biodiversity and endemicity that we have and seeing in what way we can process it so that it can render medical services to humanity at large. I'm very, very excited about this, and I also see this as a part of the wildlife thing, because many of our animals, I feel, I think, will be able to render medical value. I also feel that taking care of our wildlife will give us great ecotourism zones. And I'm happy to also let you know that in the sphere of this, it's also taking care of the people that are living there, because it is their poverty that actually leads them to kill our wildlife. So it's a very holistic program. And sir, I'm truly happy that we're choosing Palawan. Palawan is the #1 island destination in the planet for 3 years running already, and it includes Tawi-Tawi. Senator Sid, have you been to Tawi-Tawi? I've heard it's like really, 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 really beautiful, like really, really. And so I'm happy that Tawi-Tawi is part of that. And from my experience in doing development work, sir, is that when you do models, when you prove it works, the message of what you're doing far extends beyond the periphery of that particular model. And given that we've chosen Palawan and Tawi-Tawi and Zamboanga, the intention here, sir, is to use the money that you have so generously given us to create these models, which is to show in no unflinching terms that by taking care of our wildlife, taking care of life in holistic terms, we'll come up with models which can very well show the path our country can take, not only for our country, but even for the world. No? And we will go no holds barred to making sure this works. Again, I welcome you to the Philippines, and I encourage you to come and visit the beautiful, beautiful places that we have. And again, to the American government, thank you so much for helping us. And if this works, can you please give us more money? You know? I love you all. Thank you very, very, very much. Mabuhay ka.
Thank you so much to our enthusiastic protector of endemicity and biodiversity. I'm sure Secretary Gina, with your able guidance, they'll give us more and more money because it'll be a great, great project. Again, a round of applause, please, for the lovely Secretary Gina. Secretary, please stay here on stage because right now we would like to present the 4th Wildlife Law Enforcement Awards. Now, the 4th Wildlife Law Enforcement Awarding Ceremony is a venue where we recognize the private individuals and non-DENR officials and personnel who have provided invaluable assistance and unqualified support to the DENR in enforcing the provisions of the Wildlife Act. Now, the DENR has conferred this award to 271 recipients for the past 3 years. And for this year, 79 men and women from various law enforcement agencies, civil society groups, and local government units, as well as private individuals, will be recognized for their significant contributions to wildlife law enforcement work. Now, the first part of this ceremony was already held last March 3 at the Biodiversity Management Bureau Training Center in Ninoy Aquino Parks and Wildlife, where 59 individuals, all of whom were receiving the award for the first time, were awarded. Today, we will be awarding 20 awardees who have received the awards for 2 consecutive years. To join our lovely secretary here on stage, may I please call on DENR Undersecretary Mario Mendoza. To be joined by Biodiversity Management Bureau Director Mundita Lim. And to round out our presenters, may I please welcome Biodiversity Management Bureau Assistant Director Antonio Manila. Let's begin with our first set of awardees. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage our friends from the NBI. Let's give them a round of applause, please. And representing the NBI, we have Agent Abner Texon, Special Investigator 3 Felix Buton Odencio, and Agent Wilfredo Atienza. Joining them here on stage, from the NBI Cavite District Office, Head Agent Olivo Ramos, and Special Investigator 3, Chester V. Gans. Secretary Gina Lopez wants everybody to know she loves the NBI. And again, we would like to remind our guests to please upload your photos of today's event using the hashtag #ConnectedToTheWild.
I just have to say that with the illegal logging, illegal quarrying, the NBI has been amazingly supportive. So can we give them another round of applause? I really, really love them.
And again, congratulations, a very well-deserved award for our good friends from the NBI. And again, to repeat the words of our Madam Secretary, she really, really loves them. Again, round of applause, please, to the NBI and the NBI Cavite District Office. Again, mabuhay po yung NBI. Please continue your efforts to help protect our wildlife. And we're very honored to welcome here on stage our next set of awardees from the Bureau of Customs. Please welcome Special Agent 1 Elvin Enan, Special Agent 1 Marcelino Cruz, and Customs Operations Officer 3 Ronaldo Parado. The Bureau of Customs has contributed greatly to combating illegal wildlife trade, specifically in cases of smuggling of wildlife resources. The following individuals played a major role in the detection and recovery of a total of 55 species of wildlife that were about to be smuggled out to Japan and the USA. And again, congratulations to the Bureau of Customs and to all of our awardees. Another round of applause, please. Maraming salamat po. And thank you so much to all of our presenters here on stage. Kindly take your seats. And as we continue with today's program, I'm sure you've seen and heard how big of a difference Protect Wildlife Project is going to make here in the Philippines. As you know, we cannot do this project alone. If more and more of us here commit to doing our part and helping out, then the ripples that this movement makes will grow bigger, larger, and reach out even further beyond our shores and to the global community. At this point, we'd like to do a commitment activity that symbolizes partnership, participation, and protection of everyone here in this room. To begin with this commitment ceremony, may I please call on stage DENR ARMM Secretary, the Honorable Haji Kahal Ketag, and the Honorable Mayor of Brooks Point, Palawan, the Honorable Jean Feliciano, to start our commitment to conservation. Again, thank you so much to the DENR ARMM Secretary Haji Kahal Kertag and Mayor Jean Felician to starting off our commitment to conservation here in the country. Our guests are all from different sectors and they are coming together to visualize the essence of the project. A multi-stakeholder participative process where the voices of local leaders, the community, national and global partners are represented to develop solutions for conservation that result in sustainable and equitable growth. With that, to round out our puzzle here this morning, may I please call on, again on stage, our DENR Secretary Gina Lopez and U.S. Ambassador Sung Kim to continue this activity of our commitment to conservation. Please welcome on stage Secretary Lopez and Ambassador Sung Kim. As our esteemed guests and partners come up on stage, please take a good look at the puzzle they are forming. These last two pieces visualize the project outcome. People transforming into stewards of biodiversity coming together to protect the wildlife and their habitats. Again, maraming salamat, Secretary Lopez and Ambassador Sung Kim. To complete our image of our interconnectedness to the wild, we'd like to call on stage our partners who will make multi-stakeholder participation on the ground possible. Firstly, may I please call on the Deputy Mission Director of USAID, Mr. Clay Epperson. Our next set of partners are now adding icons to the puzzle that represent elements of thriving habitats and wildlife populations. When their numbers decrease, it is a signal that the ecosystems we depend on for water, food, and other important benefits are also in trouble. Now, may we please ask Mr. Epperson to continue staying on the stage, please. Mr. Epperson from the USAID. And as Mr. Epperson joins us again on stage, may I please also call on stage for the next part of our icon. The Regional Director of DENR Region 9, Mr. Felix Mirasol Jr. Thank you very much, Mr. Mirasol. Next is the Executive Director of Palawan Council for Sustainable Development, Director Nelson De Venadera. Thank you so much, Director De Venadera. May we now call on stage the Vice Governor of the Province of Tawi-Tawi, Vice Governor Mikael Ahaja. Thank you very much, Vice Governor Ahaja. Join them here again to join us for the next piece of the icon on the puzzle. Please welcome DENR Undersecretary Marlo Mendoza. Thank you, Undersecretary Mendoza. We now call on stage the Department of Justice Assistant Prosecutor, Hilmarie Fe Pacamara. Thank you very much, Assistant Prosecutor Pacamara. We now call on our representative from the Biodiversity Management Bureau, Director Mundita Lim. Thank you so much, Director Lim. And rounding out the last piece of our icon in the puzzle, may you please call on the Honorable Senator Cynthia Villar. And finally, as Senator Villar places the last piece of this commitment on our puzzle, we figure out what the puzzle is all about. The role of communities in protecting wildlife habitats and species is critical. Conservation is truly about protecting nature for people. Again, a round of applause, please, for all our dignitaries in their shared efforts to help protect our wildlife. Thank you so much to all our VIPs. Please remain here on stage. May we please request now our following dignitaries to join us again on stage for a photo opportunity. May I please call back DENR ARMM Secretary, Secretary Haji Kahal Ketag, the Honorable Mayor of Brooks Point, Palawan, Jean Feliciano, our DENR Secretary, Secretary Gina Lopez, and finally, the Ambassador of the United States of America to the Philippines, His Excellency Sung Kim. Again, one for all for one in protecting the environment. Thank you so much to all the protectors of the biodiversity and endemicity here in the country. Maybe please ask everyone to take their seats, but maybe please ask to remain on stage the good ambassador Sung Kim, Senator Cynthia Villar, Secretary Gina Lopez, Deputy Mission Director of USAID, Mr. Clay Epperson, and BME Director Mundita Lim. Please stay on stage for another photo opportunity. Again, thank you so much, and please continue to stay on stage. As we call on stage to join our dignitaries, please welcome the Chief of Party of Protect Wildlife, Dr. Ernesto Guiang. Please join us on stage. Together with the Director of the USAID Office of Environmental Crime Task Force Chief, Mr. Jeremy Gustafson. From the DENR Anti-Environmental Crime Task Force Chief, Undersecretary Arturo Valdez, and DENR Undersecretary for International Affairs and Foreign Assisted Programs, Undersecretary Jonas Leones. Can we also welcome on stage Undersecretary Marlo Mendoza. Thanks for protecting our wildlife. Again, round of applause, please. Thank you so much to everybody. Again, thank you so much. Secretary Gina, baka gusto mo turuan sila ng isang baksak. Okay na? Thank you so much. Thank you again to all of our secretaries and our dignitaries here today, especially to Secretary Gina Lopez, Senator Cynthia Villar, and of course, Ambassador Sung Kim for helping us protect our wildlife and keeping us connected to the wild. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, may we please invite everyone to turn your attention to our screen. Again, thank you so much, USAID, for reminding us that conservation is development for the Philippines and for our global community. What a great way to start off our advocacy. Now, earlier on, we kindly requested from all of our guests if you can submit your questions for our open forum, which we'll be doing right now. This is the best chance for you to get to know better about our Protect Wildlife project, which is the partnership between the DENR and, of course, the USAID. So may I please call back on stage their representatives for this open forum, our Director of Biodiversity Management from the Biodiversity Management Bureau, Director Mundita Lim. Director Lim, please join us here on stage. Let's give her a round of applause, please. And she is joined by the Chief of Party for Protect Wildlife, Dr. Ernesto Giang. Again, Director Lim, Dr. Giang, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. Now, let me start off asking a question from our guests earlier on, Director Lim. Now, one of the things that they've cited over here is the idea that it's a very challenging environment here in the Philippines to actually enforce Philippine conservation laws. Now, you've got our friends from the NBI, from the Bureau of Customs, and other law enforcement agencies over here. What can you help recommend to improve their capacity to enforce the law when it comes to conservation laws? What more do they need?
We feel that there's a need for more partnerships and capacities as well, and of course appreciation and awareness. It's important that they love what they do, they have the passion, the same as my secretary. If you have the passion, it will drive you to be able to continue what you're doing to enforce the laws properly.
And how do we plan to institutionalize this passion among our law enforcement? What are we doing to help out from the BMB to train them to get as passionate as our secretary over here?
Yes, part of that, of course, is the exposure to the different wildlife that we have. We have already information materials as well, and their important thing is we get in touch with them and have a consistent communication and an instrument, perhaps a memorandum of agreement that will also strengthen our partnership with them. But of course, more than that is how to be able to implement that agreement. We need they have to love what they're doing.
And hopefully they love it just as much as our friends from the DENR. And Dr. Giang, I wanted to ask, there's been a lot of talk here right now about Protect Wildlife, but in a nutshell, if you were to describe it, what is Protect Wildlife all about? What is its main focus?
The main focus of Protect Wildlife is really reducing threats to biodiversity and reducing, of course, poaching and wildlife trafficking. That will eventually improve the supply of ecosystems, goods, and services like water, ecotourism services. So the way we're doing it is we are, based on the pilot sites, we are improving the conservation of conservation of protected areas that are the habitats of wildlife. That's what we call as on-site protection management and enforcement. And then in off-site areas like airports, ports, terminals, where they do the selling of the wildlife species, we strengthen the enforcement of the enforcement law agencies so that they can do their jobs. That is connected to the point of Dr. Lim, which is basically you need partnership because enforcement requires multi-agency and multidisciplinary work.
A very passionate multi-agency, if I may add, right?
Yeah. And technologies as well would be very useful if we can provide the latest technology so that we can report in real time the situation on the ground.
And hopefully with the help of USAID, we will be able to bring in those new technologies to monitor, of course, any illegal poaching or trafficking activities. Now, Director Lim, I just have a question. Right now, I found out that the Philippines has actually become a popular entry point of smuggled wildlife to be sold off locally or internationally. So why has the Philippines actually become sort of like the hot spot for the illegal entry of these wildlife?
Yeah, because we're located strategically, and so we're a favorite transit point for some of this contraband. But then again, it's not just the Philippines, it's also in some other countries in ASEAN. And that means that we need to work together as a region to be able to to prevent this from happening within the region, being a transit point for illegal wildlife.
And how exactly are we working with the other regional agencies or regional law enforcement agencies to protect the illegal trafficking of wildlife?
Yes, we do have a network in the ASEAN, so we work through the ASEAN. This is a very opportune year as well because we're hosting the ASEAN Summit.
That's right.
And it's a very good opportunity to talk among our neighbors so that there is a coordination among us on how to be able to report, so that the reporting would be very effective when the contraband is passed through our ports and airports.
And I guess the communication levels as well, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Support.
Now, moving back again to Dr. Giang, earlier on you told us that really one of the main objectives of Protect Wildlife at the very start is to protect from poaching and illegal trafficking. Now, let's look right now, what are the milestones that you expect in the first 5 years of implementing Protect Wildlife? What do we want to see?
Well, the milestones that under this project are we are going to report mainly on hectares of biologically significant areas that are improved and protected by communities, by local government units, and civil service organizations on the ground. So like say in Palawan, we're working in 5 municipalities in Mount Mantalingan protected areas to develop a model where communities, local governments, and the private sector and the national government work together to improve the protection and habitat on the ground. Yeah.
I see.
That's just one of the
yes.
that's one of the indicators. We're also looking at numbers of staff that are trained from enforcement law agencies that are coming from, like what you have seen a while ago, the customs, the NBI, and even community enforcement officers.
I see. So that's the first 5-year milestone for this
Right,
one.
yeah.
And then looking more long term, what is Protect Wildlife looking at as well?
In the long term, what we would like to see is that we develop a model where the local governments, communities, and the national governments would take a self-interested action so that they can protect what they have on the ground, because the benefits from these conservation areas will eventually benefit them, coming from ecosystems, goods, and services.
Now, I like how this all linked up again back to the video that we were watching earlier on. And what was being emphasized earlier on is that conservation is not about protecting nature from people, but protecting nature for people. So, of course, again, the question of the idea of livelihood comes up. Now, for these areas where we are really protecting the livelihood, of course, you want to think about the livelihood of the people in these conservation-linked areas. What exactly are the DNR policies, maybe from both of your perspectives, both from the BMB and from your perspective, sir? What can we do to help these communities? What are you doing right now to make sure that they can have a sustainable living in the area?
Of course, right now, the flagship of the DNR is integrated area development. It's important that all stakeholders must work together, and it is not enough that we protect biodiversity for biodiversity itself, but it has to translate to benefits for the people. And because of that, of course, we're also promoting biodiversity-friendly livelihoods. A lot of the communities depend on natural resources for food, for shelter, and for health. The Secretary mentioned earlier as well pharmacological values. So it's important to translate this into something that the people will immediately benefit from.
So how do we translate? Well, like, for example, what's an example of the translation to the benefits that they can really expect on a day-to-day basis?
Well, we help them with, for example, product development, and then how they will be able to utilize this so that eventually it can be more marketable and then scale it up. So we've worked with some communities and capacitated them to be able to harvest certain raw materials in a sustainable manner, or provide them alternative livelihoods that will no longer will take them away from illegal collection or poaching.
What are these type of livelihoods which they are that they're
well,
able to get into?
Yeah, for example, certain products can be transformed into handicrafts. And then ecotourism, for example, is something that's more sustainable if it is done properly. And if we introduce ecotourism, there are downstream impacts. We can introduce handicrafts for souvenirs and also catering. We can teach the women to cater to ecotourists, and that translates into more benefits for them, and then they would appreciate nature more.
I see. And sir, you wanted to add,
Yeah,
Dr.
I
Gia?
think I'd like to maybe give you a specific example. For instance, the Philippines is so much dependent on agriculture. 85% of our agriculture, of our water, is used for irrigation systems. So if we don't produce enough water from the, from the ecosystems, we are not able to support our agriculture. Second is maybe fishing grounds. Now if you look at the communities, many of our communities are dependent on fisheries, and their lives depend so much on the quality of the habitats to be able to support fishing industries. To give you an example, for instance, 1 hectare of mangrove. If you lose a hectare of mangrove, you're also losing 1 ton of fisheries production a year.
I see, I see.
So if you lose a mangrove as a habitat, you're also losing a potential harvestable volume of 1 ton of fisheries a year. Those are the kinds of livelihood that are linked to habitats and ecosystems.
So, and on your part, how do we help those who are reliant on who were once reliant on the destruction of the mangrove? How do we convert them as well to giving them alternative livelihoods where the income level is hopefully of equal value to what they have lost from the illegal
Activities.
trade?
Well, I think it's part of the whole, one of the components of this project is what we call as behavior campaigns, social marketing, so that the communities and the local government units would be able to understand the value of the ecosystems in their local economy.
Now, why is there a need to focus not just on the species which are disappearing? Like earlier, we were just saying the pangolins are very important. But aside from them, we're also not looking at protect the species, but actually the ecosystem which they belong to. Tell us just how importantly the link is between having to protect both the species and the ecosystem.
Yeah, because you might have a forest without any wildlife. You might have a forest without any fauna at all. So in a sense, what you have is, when you're dealing with ecosystems, you're dealing with the interactions of various functional units so that they would eventually produce a certain usable goods and services.
I see.
So if you lose that natural attraction, then basically ecotourism dies. Or if you lose the productivity of a fishing ground, you can no longer fish. So it's really the ecosystems as a whole. At the same time, you're looking at the species with values to communities.
Director Lim, yes, you wanted to add?
Yeah, it's the interconnectivity that is important. That is something that we should realize. Like, if there's a forest but you don't have the wildlife, the birds and the other species, they actually help disperse seeds and pollinate. So it's not, an ecosystem will not be healthy without the two together, an ecosystem and species as well. They exist, and genetic diversity.
I understand. Thank you so much. A round of applause, please. Thank you so much, Director Lim. And Dr. Giang, any final words to our friends as we begin with our Protect Wildlife project? Director Lim, any words to our friends from the law enforcement agencies and other supporters of the environment?
Of course, we thank everyone. We thank the enforcers who have been helping us for the past years to enforce our wildlife laws, as well as our other biodiversity-related laws. This is a very good time for a project such as this one. We have everyone's support, including, of course, the Secretary, the Ambassador. And I think we should be able to take advantage of the momentum and work together. It will not succeed if we don't have our other partners. As you've seen earlier, we have stakeholders who will be assisting us, our field offices, our local government units, who are here and other government agencies are important players to make our efforts succeed.
Again, reminding us of the multi-stakeholder efforts. Again, maraming salamat, Director Lim and Dr. Giang. Any parting words for our all of our stakeholders here today?
I'd like to highlight also the need for partnership, not only at the national level, but even at the local level, to be able to achieve the objectives of this project.
Again, thank you so much, Director Lim, Dr. Giang. Thank you so much for keeping us connected to the wild. And I'd just like to remind everyone to please remember how important it is to keep our connection to the wild going while doing our part to protect the wildlife that surrounds us. By preserving their home and their habitat, we also protect ourselves. With that, ladies and gentlemen, may I please invite everyone to continue to stay on. We've got lunch, which will be served later on. At the same time, please mingle, get to know your all fellow good-looking guests who are here today. And at the same time, don't forget to visit our interactive displays by my left side over there from our friends in Conservation International, and enjoy the rest of the day. Before I bid goodbye, I'd like to invite everyone to please turn your attention to the screen. And again, one final reminder, please upload your photos on social media using the hashtag #ConnectedToTheWild. Again, my name is RJ Ledesma. Have a great day. And again, please turn your attention to our screen.
Tayo ay maituturing na isa sa maliit na bansa sa mundo. Subalit maliit man, tayo ay isa sa pinaka-mega-diverse country. Tayo ay nagtataglay ng iba't ibang uri ng buhay at likas na anyo ng kalikasan. Karamihan ay dito lamang matatagpuan. Ang sari-saring uri ay tinatawag na biological diversity o biodiversity. Subalit ito ay hindi ganap na napapahalagahan. Katunayan, marami sa mga ito ay nalalagay sa peligro sa sitwasyon ng pagkasira o pagkawala. Dahilan upang ang ating bansa ay tagurian ding biodiversity hotspot. Sa pangunguna ng Department of Environment and Natural Resources, ang pagpapahalaga at pangangalaga sa biodiversity ay pinalakas sa pamamagitan ng pagtatalaga ng Protected Areas and Wildlife Bureau bilang Biodiversity Management Bureau o BMB. Iba't ibang programa ay pinaiiral upang mga layunin nito ay maisakatuparan. Tagumpay ay mas maaabot kung mga mamamayan ay magkakaroon ng kooperasyon at partisipasyon. Ang BMB bumuo ng isang advokasya upang mapalaganap ang adhikain. Una sa hangarin ay mas mapalawak ang kaalaman at kaunawaan sa katagang biodiversity. Ang mga katagang ugnayan ng iba't ibang buhay, pahalagahan, pangalagaan ay gagamitin upang mandato ay mas malinaw na mailahad. Mga mensahe ng kampanya ay resulta ng malawak na konsultasyon sa mga nangungunang sektor at organisasyon na nagsusulong din sa kapakanan ng biodiversity. Lumikha ng isang campaign slogan, "Kung wala yun, wala nito," ay ang katagang mag-aangat sa kahalagahan ng biodiversity. Ilang pulong ang ginanap upang mailahad ito sa ilang pribadong sektor at kinatawan ng media. Layunin ay makakuha ng suporta upang kampanya ay mas malawak na maipaabot sa mga mamamayan. May 22, 2015, ang International Day for Biological Diversity. Ginanap ang media launch of the Biodiversity Advocacy. Sa pangunguna ng Biodiversity Management Bureau, inilunsad ang bagong advokasya. Nagkaroon din ng pagkakataon ng ilang organisasyon na mailahad ang kanilang suporta sa kampanya. Formal na ipinalabas ang unang 3 infomercial para sa advokasya. Sa simpleng paglalarawan, ang kahalagahan ng biodiversity ay mas epektibong maipaaalam sa mas nakararami. Sa simpleng advokasya, kapakanan ng ating likas na kapaligiran para sa kapakanan natin ay lubos na mauunawaan sa mga katagang, "Kung wala yun, wala nito." Sa mga corals nangingitlog ang iba't ibang isda. Mga bagong isda ay nabubuhay at naninirahan hanggang ganap na lumakas. Sa malinis na karagatan, sila ay lalaki. Mangingisda ay may mga ani sa tamang panahon. Mga isdang aabot sa ating palengke upang tayo ay may isda sa ating hapagkainan. Kung mga corals ay nasisira dahil sa ating mga gawain, paano na ang hanapbuhay nila? paano na ang isdang pagkain natin? Kung wala yon, wala nito. Bawat uri ng buhay ay mahalaga para sa isa't isa. Maaaring isipin na ang isang uri ng ibon ay pwedeng wala sa likas na tirahan nito. Subalit, kung wala ang ibong ito, dadami ang pesting kinakain nito. Pesting pagkain naman ay palay, lubos na sumisira sa taniman. Pagkalugi sa hanapbuhay ng magsasaka, dulot din ay kakulangan ng bigas sa mga palengke. Kaya kung wala ang ibong ito, paano na ang kabuhayan nila? Paano na ang bigas natin? Kung wala yon, wala nito. May mga bundok na malawak ang kagubatan, natirahan na maraming uri ng hayop. Dahil sa likas na ganda, magandang tanawin at pasyalan nito. Nagkakaroon ng hanapbuhay ang mamamayang nakatira sa paligid nito. Kainan, tindahan, tirahan, at kung ano-ano pang mga negosyo. Mahalaga na manatiling maayos ang bundok at kagubatan. Kung ito ay masira at mawalan ng likas na ganda, paano na ang kanilang kabuhayan? Paano na ang ating pasyalan? Kung wala yun, wala nito.
Thank you for joining us today for the Project Wildlife Project launch. We would like to invite everyone to know more about our project by going around our exhibit area and trying out our interactive displays from Mind Museum and Conservation International. Thank you once again and have a great day.